Hi, welcome to the AM show. Thanks for staying with us and thanks for making us part of your morning. Now it's time for us to look into the papers, and we're doing this with Dr. Asa Asante, who is a lecturer at the University of Ghana. He's a political science analyst as well. He's joining us for us to go into the papers. I have with me this morning the Daily Graphic. I have the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide newspaper, the New Crusading Guide, the Meridian, the Republic, and the Publisher. So that's it. Now, on the front page of the Daily Graphic, it says, a great minister resigns to contest MPP flag bearership. Alan Chiramanting unveils transformational plan for country. 1% e-levy kicks off today. Traders agent expect positive outcome. Ghana receives first gold for oil consignment next week. 2023 New Year School Conference to focus on continental trade. These are the stories on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Let me welcome my guest now. Dr. Kwadwo Owusu Afriyie is political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, grateful that you could join us. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother, and Happy New Year to you.
Prosperous one to you, Doc. Okay. So let's go into the papers. Let's start from the Daily Graphic as I was reading, and let's start from Alan Chiramanting unveiling the plan for the country, as well as the Agric Minister resigning to contest the MPP flag bearership race. Now, outgoing Minister of Trade and Industry, Alan Chiramanting, who is seeking to become the flag bearer of the new Patriotic Party in the 2024 elections, has unveiled a national development plan for the country dubbed the Ghana Transformational Plan, GTP. The 7-point plan, among other things, seeks to provide a strong macroeconomic environment, a new agricultural revolution for the country, industrial transformation, digital mainstreaming, energy security and diversification, decarbonization and climate resilience. These were contained in a presentation he made yesterday, which was broadcast live across a number of radio and television channels. Mr. Chiramanting said the success of the GTP would depend primarily on strong macroeconomic fundamentals, which would include a stable currency, low inflation, sustainable debt levels, revenue optimization, and tight expenditure control to guarantee fiscal balance, low competitive interest rate, strong external reserves backed by high levels of liquidity to support the financial sector. Doc, I'm sure you listened to him. You know the track record of this government and the party by extension. What sort of motivational encouragement do you derive from this?
If you look at what Mr. Chiramanting has so far said, they are simply not new. We know all of them, but except that some of them, he wants to take it to another level. If you look at the issue of corruption, for instance, it's not new. It has been with us since time immemorial. And government have paid lip service to it, including his own government. All right, so we want to see what new things he's bringing on board. And that is the focus. All right, because we have tried firing squad. It did not work. We have tried the courts. It did not work. We have tried, of course, the courts and the laws. It did not work. Now, we have OSP. Is it working or is it not? Right? So we want to see how he want to, the level he want to take us to. He talked about another interesting aspect in his speech about downsizing government. Is it an admission that the size of this government, which he's a part, or he was a part, is that huge? And did he get the courage to tell the president that this is not the way to go? If he did, why is he talking about it right now? All right. And what new thing that is he going to put a cap on the number of ministers we need to have or what? We want more details in there. He talks about issue of industrialization, a good one, of course. and they want to take it to another level. I was expecting all these things. At the end of the day, I want to also see how we will manage waste. Auditor General's report is still a concern to me, and that did not feature. Maybe I did not see in the speech, but I hope and pray that all these things, by the time he gives out full-blown ideas behind this one, we'll be able to have all the fine details in here. I think it's early days yet, and then we grant him that he needs to tell us something to kickstart the whole process. But I have no doubt in my mind the candidate I'm talking about, he is very experienced, knowledgeable, and he has over the years dedicated himself to the work of this country, the service of this country. There's no doubt. He's very innovative, I can say without fear of contradiction, and then he has what it takes to lead his party. All right. As to whether the party will give him the mandate or not, it's not me who should say it. The delegates will say it. But I tell you, he also comes on board with a lot of rich experience, and he has what it takes to lead the party. There's no doubt about that.
But talking about industrialization, he was given the mandate of executing the government's major plan in terms of industrializing the country, 1D, 1F. If you look at how far he was able to take it, does it give you any, inspiration that indeed, when he talks about industrialization, he has what it takes to do it, looking at his track record at the ministry?
Yes, if you look at 1D, 1F, it is true that there are lingering challenges, but it's all equally true that he has done some great work there. Some of the industries are existing and producing. So yes, we can say that he's doing his best there. We can't fault him that much. All right. That is my position on that. But if you look at other sectors too, there are questions he will answer. And I'm sure his team are preparing him for that. Questions like how we have arrived here relative to the economic situation we find ourselves. Trade industry is a critical component of the economic framework, and that if the economy has degenerated or sunk so low to this extent, then he must be prepared to answer questions in that regard. Okay. That would not elude him. I'm sure he's aware of that.
Okay. Now, another person who has also resigned to contest the flag bearership of the NPP is the Agric Minister. Now, the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Afriyie, has tendered in his resignation. He presented a resignation letter yesterday evening after addressing a staff there by the ministry to thank them for their support in a 6-year tenure at the ministry. As of the time of filing this report, Dr. Akoto was at the Jubilee House to present his resignation letter to the President. Our sources indicated his resignation, which is to enable him to concentrate on his presidential ambition, however, takes effect from January 24 this year, according to sources familiar with the matter. Now, if you look at Dr. Osei Akoto as well, how would you assess his chances of getting close to leading the NPP?
There are canons that we use to assess people for internal contest. And this is a standard that we use for all of them. One is your popularity. You ask yourself whether he's popular within the rank and file of his party. I think to a large extent, yes. And the popularity also comes from the fact that the portfolio that he's holding and for which reason he wants to leave and go and contest is popular with every home of this country. Food, agriculture, and whatnot. So popularity, yes. Then you also talk about the issue of what? Experience. You see that experience to handle the matter at the state level. I think he has some experience that can be brought to bear in discussing national issues and all that. There's no doubt about that. We also look at such contests, you look at constituencies that you have, all right? If you look at Mr. The Agric Minister, you realize that he has two strong constituencies, all right, Eastern region and Ashanti region. These are the regions that his parents come from. The father from Ashanti region, mother from Eastern region, all right? But so all these things are a function of ethnicity in Ghanaian politics. There's no doubt about that. I don't endorse that, but I tell you, voters also, if you read the literature, voters always gravitate towards these things, and then these factors influence the choices that they make. So he's going to pull people from this region and all that. The work that he has done as a minister, if he has been able to endear himself to the hearts of many, he's going to get more constituencies, and that will be the game changer for him. Remember that Ashanti region and Eastern region are very strongholds for the NPP. So if you hail from any of these and you do your work well, you are all going to get some support from these people. Apart from this factor, we also look at the issue of marketability. Is the candidate marketable within the MPP and beyond? Let us remember that after the internal contest, you are going to have a national contest. Would that candidate be marketable nationwide? I think by his portfolio and the work that he has done over the years, he's also a marketable commodity for the market. You always want to know whether the person that you are electing as your flag bearer, which eventually will become, will contest the national presidential seat, that candidate is also the candidate who can rub shoulders with any of the flag bearers who will emerge in the rest of the political parties. Is he that candidate? Does he have the political wherewithal, the clout, the experience, and all that? I think to some extent, yes, he will. And the same standard that you use for Mr. Chiramathing and the rest of them who will pop up to contest the election. But as to whether he will be able to lead a party, one, I have not gone to the field to pick data. Data will speak to this. But I am doing qualitative analysis, and then you realize that he has a lot of work that he needs to do, and the same goes for everybody who want to contest. That you need to be able to drive your campaign around 4 principal standards. That you need a strategy that is workable, that will be able to energize the voters to be able to vote for you. You need resources, human material, to move people to your side. And of course, you also need message that resonates with the people within the party and beyond. Remember that when you are giving the mandate within the party, your mandate will transcend your party to the national frontiers. So you need a message that resonates with people within the party and outside the party. And these are some of the things, including a manifesto that will stand the test of time and deal with the lingering challenges of the country. So it's a tall order for all of them. And it is these factors that voters consider if you read the literature, and then they vote along. So it's not so simple that you resign and you want to contest, but you brace yourself for all these issues and prepare adequately to address them, because they will come to you. It is just a matter of time.
Well, during his time as the Agri Minister, there were a lot of, the sector grew, and in 2022, it was amongst the leading sectors that grew well in terms of their contribution to the GDP. But again, people are looking at the cost of food and the sort of challenges that confronted the sector as well. Isn't that something that will come back to bite him in his ambition to lead a party? How does he then approach, the handling or responding to those sort of challenges that will be coming up against him?
Obviously, the approach, I will not be the one to answer. So I will chicken out, but I will dance around it. If you look at the question that you posed earlier on, the first part of it is that won't some of the problems that he faced in the ministry come and hunt him? Obviously, it will. Some of the questions will come to him. One, we are saying that 1D, 1F is working, and yet you have food crisis to some extent. How do you explain that? All right. You are saying that 1D planting for food and jobs. Yeah, is able to what? It's meant to create jobs for the marauding youth dotted around the nook and cranny of this country. And where are the jobs for them? And still, we have people complaining about jobs. So that question, I'm sure his team are preparing on that. Another question that will come to him is that his pronouncements in the public sometimes is not the best. All right. Every time he will give you an example that my wife says this, he went to the market and all that. It talks about research in the agricultural sector. Is it going to be easy for him to handle? Because we want to understand the data in the agri sector, what it speaks to, and then how best that data can dovetail into something meaningful for this country. These are questions that will come to him, whether he likes us or not. And I'm sure that he's also not oblivious of this fact, and he's preparing for that. We also want to understand why that we have crisis of fertilizer, despite Russia, Ukraine, because we've heard stories where people push this fertilizer outside this country to other places and all that, some using it for some unwanted programs and all that. All right. How were they able to do that? What were the mechanisms that were put in place by the ministry to address this? These are some of the things that will come. But in all this, the summary is that his work is going to be scrutinized, because politics is nothing but what? Contest of ideas. Yes, you churn out your ideas, but the referendum of your work that you have done, will have to speak for him. So I'm sure he's putting all together, and more questions are going to come from such areas and any other areas that people would deem fit, because that ministry is the life of every human being in this country and beyond. So questions will come from all sectors. I have no doubt in my mind.
Final story from the Daily Graphics. I support anti-corruption institutions. Former President Mahama urges citizens. Former President John Dramani Mahama has urged the citizenry to support the anti-corruption institutions to carry out their duties fairly and courageously without interference. Mr. Mahama said this in a Facebook post yesterday in reaction to a recent pronouncement by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that Akonta Mining Company was not involved in any illegal mining activities anywhere in the country. President Akufo-Addo was said to have made the statement while addressing the Catholic Bishops' Conference at the 16th Biennial Congress of the National Union of Ghana Catholic Diocesan Priest Association in Koforidua in the Eastern region. Now, it's a quote. Let me respond briefly to the... Okay, so that's to bring what the president said there. But former President Mahama described that as unfortunate how and when President Akufo-Addo made that statement, which he, former President Mahama, claimed was to exonerate Akonta Mining, which had been accused of illegal mining in the country's forest reserves. Your reaction, sir? What do you make of
I think
his response?
President Mahama couldn't have said it better than what he did, because I was wondering whether the president wanted to do PR for Akonta Mining. I'm not sure my president, that is his work. And he strayed into grounds that were not appropriate for him at all. Two, he's a lawyer, astute one, very professional, and the issues are before a body under investigation. And he was commenting on that. You are obviously prejudicing the matter, and that is not in tandem with the principles of rule of law and democracy by extension. I was very disappointed in that, and that I'm sure that the criticisms that have greeted this type of action, the president will take note of that.
But I've been told that we have to avert our minds to the question that brought that. The question was asking for that as we speak, what was the state of, the Akonta mining? The president said, as we speak, Akonta mining is not engaged in illegal mining. Isn't it a fair response to say that presently, and the minister has explained that it doesn't really then, it doesn't exonerate Akonta mining of what it has done in the past?
No,
Okay.
No, it is simply no. We don't want to engage in semantics.
Okay.
We believe that, you see, we are talking about somebody who is an institution in law. That's the president, all right? He's a great lawyer. He understands these things. So some of these things, we want him to shy away from it and allow the institutions to do their work. Once you come out, and you being the big man, the first gentleman, all in all, you tend to, poison the minds of people in certain direction. So this one, with respect, I disagree with him vehemently.
Okay.
Vehement. He shouldn't have gone there at all. And I'm sure he has taken political or judicial notice of this. And then next time, we will not see a similar situation. Because once you tax institutions to do their work, allow them a free hand for them to do their work. You see, the problem we have with this is that when these things continue, all right, it creates you introduce something to the people that, look, anytime somebody is accused of corruption, the president is the first to jump into the defense of that person. Is it true or is it not? And I'm sure that the president doesn't want this image to be there, because there was a time that he took turns to complain about people describing him as what? A clearing agent and all that, clearing people of wrongdoing. I'm sure the way the president spoke, he realized that he was not happy. So I don't want him to do something that will really give people the cause to interpret his action to reflect some of these positions that he detests so much. Okay. That is not good enough. And corruption is a difficult battle to fight, I admit. But that when you have people in authority, all right, seem to be, defending people accused of wrongdoing in that area, then you realize that it emboldens people to continue on that trajectory. And I'm not sure, giving the life of the president as a clean person in terms of corruption and all that, I don't think that that is the image he wants to create in the minds of people. Okay. So I think that it will serve the interests of the government and the president as a person if he shy away from some of these things. His utterances, I think he will want to look at them again.
We're still on with Dr. Kwame Asah-Sante. He's political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies here on the News Review segment of the AM show. Now, Ghanaian Times intensify public education on interstate succession law. That's according to appeal court judge. 2,373 perished in motor accident in 2022 nationwide. Bulldog fined 48,000 Ghana cedis for a threatening precedent of a men's good customers payment. 1% e-levy takes off today. Revised rate reduced from 1.5%, while 100 cedis threshold remains unchanged. Now, a bit of on that particular story says the implementation of the revised electronic transfer levy, e-levy, rate of 1% on electronic transaction by Airtel Mobile Commerce Ghana Limited, GCBG Money, Mobile Money Limited, Vodafone Mobile Financial Services Limited, and ZPay Ghana Limited will begin today. According to the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, this follows the directive from the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. This was contained in a statement issued by the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications and Corporate at Ghanaian Times in Accra yesterday. Now, so Doc, the thing is that Parliament agreed that the e-levy must be reduced from 1.5 to 1%. The 100% threshold, which the government wanted to take off, Parliament was able to get it to remain. It's starting today. With the experience of how the response was to the 1.5%, what must we do differently now? I mean, those in charge of implementation, to ensure that there is the buy-in of where we are now.
One is education. We need constant education to the effect that let everybody accept that you can never manage or govern any political society without finance. It is part of the topics that we discuss in political science as state capacity, that the extractive capacity, the ability of the state to generate resources to run its affairs. It is important. So if a government takes such a decision, all right, and it's approved by representatives of the people, all of us must embrace it and work with it. It is difficult at this time because of the economic challenges that we have. But are we saying that we want our country to collapse? No. No state runs without what finance. So if this is approved, all of us must embrace it, work diligently to make sure that the policy succeeds. It is in our interest for us to support the implementation of this policy through and through. The cost of undermining it will not be funny for anybody in this country, especially given our present circumstances, economic condition we find ourselves. We need to work to support it and let it be. And then tied to this, as you generate resources from our taxes, from levies and all that, we also want to see effective use of the money, ensure value for money. More often than not, you see a missing link. Monies are raised, but the use of such resources is always problematic. We believe that government has learned a lot in this regard, because if you look at the comments that greeted the e-levy the first time the bill was introduced to Parliament, one of the criticisms was that people were ready to cough up money and pay, but that they want to see how their money works for them. I believe that government has taken note of this, and they want to make it effective in terms of its usage and all that. And then the third angle is that whatever they do with such revenue, they must be open and then tell the public, all right? Good governance concept talks about what? Openness. That whatever government business is not a private business. So if you are doing it, give people access to information. Let them assess the information. Let them know what you are doing so that they will be part and parcel of the problems that confront it when the time comes. And then the same people, once you are able to carry them along, they will sympathize with you and then help you to address any challenge that comes your way. So that is my advice to government. On the issue of road accident, we have seen a lot. We have seen a lot. There are multiple factors that account for this. One is what? Our attitude as road users, drivers, and all that. Do we adhere to the rules governing driving? No. If we did, yes, accident will come, but we reduce the incidents to a larger extent. But what are we saying? We drive anyhow, and the law enforcement agencies, some of whom who are supposed to enforce the laws, of course, not all of them, some of them will, compromise their positions and then will not enforce the laws rigidly. So enforcement has also been a problem, and it has aggravated the situation. What is more is that sometimes the tools that we use in driving, such as traffic lights and all that, they are broken down, and as if there is nobody responsible for that. That is unfortunate. Take Accra, for instance. There are a number of street lights that are not working. You get there, you have to use your own discretion. And what are we talking about? We are inviting trouble, accident and all that. And when we see this thing and we don't address them and turn around to blame it on what? The people alone, that's unfortunate. We need to up our game. There are places that we are supposed to have lights. We pay for street lights. Are they functioning? Who is answering for that? We as citizens must be present to look at all these things and demand accountability. If you look at our constitution, the preamble, part of the statement there is that we demand accountability for people that we have entrusted our power with. We believe that going forward, the people must look at some of these things and demand accountability through legitimate means so that nobody will be taken for granted.
Okay. Now, daily guide, Alan unveils agenda, 3 NDC vigilantes caged, 1 pleads guilty. Mahama Sheikh's Nana over Akonta mining will protect private sector interests, GJA. I think these are stories that we've dealt with. New crusading guide, Owusu Afriyie network shows love, okay. Chamber of Mines, key partner in making Ghana mining hub of Africa, Lands Minister. Police pursue owners of Ferryman's Mart over $240,000 fraud. Busa South DC hot as Doninga, Weazie indigents demand construction of Mesen Get Fund KG blocks. I'll become the transformational leader of our time, Alan Cash declares as he unveils his plan from 2025 to 2030. Now, let's just briefly on the Chamber of Mines being a key partner in making Ghana a mining hub of Africa. Yesterday, the minister met the chamber to discuss, issues in the mining sector. One of the things that came up was the gold for oil thing. The chamber said they were not really involved in the planning stages. How do you think we should, approach this relationship between the chamber, that's the large-scale mining companies, and the state to ensure, beneficial, mutual benefit for the parties?
You see, when we talk about these things, I ask myself, is Ghana serious? If we are serious, we have signed on to principles such as what good governance, and one of its, tenets is what stakeholder participation. You involve everybody who matters in the matter to discuss the issue and find solution. Why do you want to ignore the mining, body? Why do you want to ignore? And still, you want a solid decision to be taken that will stand the test of time. That is what a misnomer, all right? But going forward, I believe that we want to engage all stakeholders. We want to dialogue and then arrive at something that can help us to work with these things, all right? Because the decision to get oil through this barter trade agreement, expert, I'm not an economist, they have said that it's a good thing, but the way we manage it, always that have been what our bane. I believe that this time around, government should be able to accede to some of the advice that people give to it, and then work with it. All right, work with it. And government must be prepared to accommodate all dissenting views, however painful they may be. Some of these things go a long way to, shape the frontiers of what you are doing. It is a problem that I have found consistently with this government, that sometimes they are not ready for advice. You look at the Elevy, how it started. People talk about it, expert. He did not engage the stakeholders. And then what people said eventually have come to pass. I believe that lesson has been learned and learned well. And we don't want to see a repeat of that in this area.
All right, now let's do the Republic Press. Government OSP at loggerheads. Now, the relationship between the Special Prosecutor, Kissie Jabing, and his appointers appears to be frosty following allegations making rounds that the Akufo-Addo-led government has failed to resource the office enough to enable it to perform its mandate of fighting corruption. 2 years into his administration, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo introduced the Office of the Special Prosecutor to spearhead his avowed war against corruption in the country. However, after barely 4 years of its existence, the office has seen more troubles than it's worth, as it is entangled in a series of endless controversies, with its efforts being overshadowed by boundless shadow boxing between government and occupant of the office. Another Martin Amidu in the making. Do you foresee that? How do we corrupt all of these, issues between funding of the Office of the Special Prosecutor and government saying that we're doing our best to find corruption?
There's a problem of misplaced priorities. We don't know what our priorities are. We engage in activities that do not, support us immediately and for a long time. No. Every year, the Ghana Integrity Initiative have told us that almost $3 billion slipped through our fingers. All right. Look at, we are excited that the IMF is coming our way with $3 billion. If we have managed such amount well, are we going to need their services? The Office of Special Prosecutor, it was one of the bold decisions that this government took when it was campaigning for power. A beautiful one, and then a workable one. This office can only work when it has resources. Our priorities are wrong. We are, channeling money to other places that doesn't support any of the beautiful enterprises that we have. And yet we say we want to fight corruption. You don't want to give the man resources. How do you expect him to work? All right. We channel money into building of cathedrals. All right. And yet we don't want to fight corruption. How do we do that? I mean, I'm sorry to say that we are only paying lip service to the fight against corruption. Because if you don't want to arm the man with the resources, don't expect any results from him. So I sympathize with the man that in no time he has started talking. I know he will talk more, and a time will come if the situation goes on. I'm sure a gentleman as he is, he will just abandon the position like the way Mr. Amidi did and then goes away because he wants to keep his image intact. This is a young man, very energetic. He has a love for his country and that he's dedicated to the fight against corruption. If you look at the few, moves that he has made, he has endeared himself to the heart of many in this country, all right, that the man, if given opportunity, will work. Okay. Why are we stabbing him at the back? It's unfortunate. Okay. If we really are serious in fighting corruption, let us declare that. If we are not, let us not waste anybody's time, because this is not a time to experiment. We are in difficult times, and that we must be very serious about what we do.
Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, grateful that you could join us this morning on our show.
Always, always. Right. I'm grateful to you.
Thank you. Now, he is a political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. And that's it for our news review segment. Sports is up next. But before I go, happy belated birthday to you, Chairman Deda Ayepa of Hunter West. May God bless you and keep blessing you. Keep watching Joy News. We will be back with sports.